University of Missouri St. Louis College of Education podcast. Hello and welcome. My name is David Stouffer and I get to be the recruitment coordinator for the UMSL College of Education. Each week on this podcast, we will meet an innovator in the field of education. We will spend some time getting to know them and learning about their work and how it can help you and yours. It is my sincere hope that this podcast will be a source of encouragement and support as you work to continue impacting lives as an educator. My guest today is Dr. Jill-Klahn-Smith. Dr. Smith is currently the assessment coach for the Wentzville School District. Dr. Smith is originally from Clinton, Iowa. She attended the University of Northern Iowa, where she received both her bachelor's and master's in education degrees. She's a recent graduate of UMSL in our College of Education PhD program as Teaching and Learning Processes. Dr. Smith, welcome.
Thank you.
Very interested to hear just a little bit about your journey. It sounds like you've done a lot and been in a lot of places over the years. Tell me a little bit about your journey and how you wound up where you are right now in Wentzville.
All right. Well, after graduating from the University of Northern Iowa in 1993, I moved to a little town called White Bear Lake, Minnesota. Was there for a while, and then ended up in Longview, Texas. Hometown of Matthew McConaughey, and then moved to Panama City Beach, where I actually had my first teaching job in 2001, teaching first grade. For the next 5 years, I worked for the Bay County School District there in Panama City, and I taught first grade, third grade, and fourth grade, and fifth grade before making the move to Missouri and moving to O'Fallon. And from there, I took a position with the Wentzville School District as a math and science teacher in sixth grade. And I've been with Wentzville ever since. And currently my position as the assessment coach for the district. This is my third year. I'm starting my third year in that position, where I help and work with administrators as well as teachers with all of their assessments and data that goes along with that, and just helping them make the most of assessments and data.
Thank you. That's pretty interesting and very encouraging. I'm really encouraged by the opportunities for educators to really expand their career and grow in ways like never before. The traditional track used to be teacher, master's degree, administration, if you wanted to grow, otherwise you teach for 30 years and retire. Now there's many opportunities out there. Tell me how you kind of transition and what about this assessment coach position was appealing to you?
Well, it's interesting that you talk about, the traditional one was always a principal. That's what I thought I wanted to be until I really saw what all went into being a principal, and that wasn't, then it didn't really apply or, appeal to me that much. I've always been somebody who really digs deep into the data of whatever I'm doing. So when I was teaching, I would always, with assessments and that with my students, really try to dig deep into them, find the patterns of what was happening with their assessments and whatnot. And also wanted to do things that were a little bit out of the ordinary. Not necessarily just putting, an 85% at the top of a test, but really breaking down a test for students so that they were able to see, where their strengths were and where their weaknesses were, where they had those areas that they could still have some growth on that particular assessment. So it meant more. And so when this position, and in fact, when I took this position, it's a brand new position. I'm the only one who has had it. So the new director of assessment at the time really said this was a position that she wanted. And when it became available and I really read through the description, I was like, yes, this is what I do every day with my students. The opportunity to then be able to share that with other teachers and administrators and help them kind of do the same thing was exactly what I was it just fit me so well. So it wasn't necessarily a position that was out there that I'd been seeing it in action or anything like that. It really just came down to reading that description on a whim, just, oh, I wonder what kind of positions we've got available right now. And it was there. And I'm really fortunate to work with my director of assessment. I think we make a really great team. And I think we're doing some really great things here in Wentzville with regards to assessment.
That's great. That's encouraging. I'm sure there are a lot of people out there that would love to learn more about the track that you took, and positions like that are being added all over the place as we get so much more into data and so much more into the science of teaching and whatnot. So that's encouraging that Wentzville is really focusing on that. Your doctorate degree that you just completed, tell me a little bit about that. PhD in teaching and learning processes. Talk about that if you could.
Yeah, so I really, again, like, I wasn't really interested in going that administrative route that so many people go into. I really was more interested in just learning more about the art of teaching and what all goes into it. And so that was why I chose that route that UMSL offers. I'm much more interested in curriculum type things, assessment type things, and in working with the people at UMSL. That really was the path that made the most sense for me. So it allowed me to really study some different things that were interesting to me as it related to curriculum, as it related to assessment. I focused in on some math, as that had been my background. Really was able to focus on some math teaching processes, some math teaching philosophies, and things that were happening here. My dissertation was, I focused on early acceleration for math students. And so, and I really enjoyed that program because it allowed me to look more at assessment pieces and curriculum that would go along with some of that early acceleration.
So start to finish, how long did it take you to complete the PhD?
I would say I'm not the norm when it comes to this. I was a good 9 years. But one thing that I can say for anybody who is getting a doctorate, there is not a set path by any means. And UMSL did such a wonderful job of really working with me. There were some life events that occurred during my time, during those 9 years, that caused me to pause and, kind of question, is this really what I want? Is this really the path that I need to be on or want to be on? I met some amazing faculty members along the way that inspired me to keep going. Each time I thought about kind of quitting, and at one point I even had to actually reapply, and which was a hard. At that point, I was ready to be like, no, you know what, I'm done. Because the original program that I was in was no longer available. They weren't supporting that program anymore. And so I had to reapply into the new program. But again, those faculty members really did an amazing job of working with me and making things work. So many of the current students are so fortunate to be able to work in cohorts. And I kind of just jumped into all of this, 9 years ago by myself without a cohort. And so having supportive faculty members was really key for me because I didn't have that cohort. And so so while it took 9 years, and that was very, I think, unconventional, I think when you get a doctorate, there is no set path. It's not like when you're getting your bachelor's and you're like, oh, it's a 4-year degree. I think a doctorate is truly a journey that's different for everybody.
Mm-hmm. So 9 years ago, you're shopping around wanting to get a doctorate. I'm sure you did a lot of research. I'm sure you looked at a lot of different programs. Why UMSL? What was it about UMSL that was appealing to you? And why did you ultimately decide to not just start at UMSL, but, stay at UMSL for 9 years?
Well, we had looked at some programs. A friend of mine who had gone through the master's program through UNI with me. We did that at age 40 and had to actually spend some summers up at the University of Northern Iowa. So, we weren't doing any of this at a young age. So we had families. And so that the option of going and doing any kind of doctoral residencies or anything like that was definitely out of the question. So it had to be local to St. Louis. That was the number one. The number two, obviously, needed to be affordability. That was something that was going to be important. But then what we really started to see is math was such an important thing for us. We wanted a university that would really support our continuation of where we had been from our master's. And there were some faculty members at UMSL, Kathy Vatterat and Helene Sherman, who really had that same philosophy that we had. We'd kind of looked at some of the work that they had done, and we were really excited about being able to continue our work with them. And so, in fact, both of those people were a part of the kind of that interview committee at the very beginning to even be accepted into the program. So I think just having people at the university with that same like-mindedness and passion for what we had a passion for, we knew that was the place to be, that we would be able to surround ourselves with people that we could continue our research and continue our just our education in a field that we had so much passion for.
So now you have a PhD in teaching and learning processes. You're an assessment coach. What's next for Dr. Jill-Klahn-Smith? Where do you go from here? And what does the doctorate program that you just finished up, what kind of doors does that open for you in the future in your career?
Well, it's my hope that it will open up some opportunities for me to work even more in depth with my district, as well as other districts in areas of curriculum, assessment down the road. I'd love to be able to work with a university, just kind of to start off with, as an adjunct. That's really been a dream of mine, is to work at the university level. And so like I said, to kind of work at that adjunct level, to kind of get in there, start meeting some of those pre-service teachers and, talking math, talking assessment with them. Mm-hmm. And possibly working at like an Ed Plus type environment where I can, then work with multiple districts regarding their assessment practices, their math acceleration policies and procedures, and how we can best meet kids who are ready for some math acceleration, and do that in a way that mm-hmm. allows us to really follow through with them and provide the really great opportunities for them. And eventually, I think once I've retired from public education, I'd like to work at a university a little bit more full time.
Great. It sounds like the PhD program has really given you a lot of chances to diversify, not just diversify, but really specialize.
I think so.
Specific area of education that you now have something to offer that's very unique and very important.
Absolutely.
And it's encouraging to hear you say that you're wanting to go and impact the next generation of teachers in the same way that you were impacted by some of the great faculty here. What would you say to someone out there that was maybe in your situation 9 years ago, where you were not quite sure what to do and what kind of degree, or if you needed a doctorate, and especially someone that's considering UMSL for their doctorate program? What would you say to encourage them and help them in their journey?
I think really focusing in on what you're passionate about. What is it about education that you have a passion for? And really focus in on that, and looking at a place like UMSL, and looking into their faculty and who is there that can that you can make that connection with, that would have that same passion, because I think that's just so important, and it makes the process so much easier. And when you're working on your research, being able to have that person who understands what you're looking into and researching and writing about, and being able to have those conversations with them is so key and so important. But definitely making for sure that when you're going for your doctorate, that it's something that you are truly passionate about, and not just another degree to check, make another check mark.
Absolutely. Well, Dr. KlahnSmith, it's been an absolute pleasure meeting you and getting to know you. And it's refreshing to hear someone that has such a great passion and that's really found their place, and a place that they can really use their skills and their talents to impact the kids in Wentzville. So thank you for joining me today.
Thank you so much. It's been my honor.
I am honored that you chose to join me today for the University of Missouri St. Louis College of Education podcast. I hope you'll join me next time. Till then, I'm David Stouffer. Thank you for the work you do. Never forget, you are making a difference every day.